Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Uh, Welcome once again for another segment of our lesson. Previously, we discussed this on the topic behavior of gases and gas law. And under it, I have explained it some terms that are used to describe the behavior of gases. And these terms, of course, I said they are the gas volume, the pressure, the temperature, and the standard temperature and pressure. And today we are going to look at the topic gas law. Under this gas law, we have, the Boyle's law, the Charles law, general gas equation, and others. So today I'm going to take Boyle's law. Boyle's law, in Boyle's law, there are two variables that determine the volume of a fixed mass of gas. And these variables are the temperature and the pressure. So therefore, a physicist called Robert Boyle described the effect of pressure change on gas volume at constant temperature. His observation leads to the Boyle's law, which describes the physical behavior of gases, and he states the law as follows. Boyle's law, states that the volume of a given mass of gas is inversely proportional to the pressure if temperature remains constant. In other words, we can say Boyle's law stated that the volume of a given mass of gas is inversely proportional to the pressure if temperature remains constant. All the same, that is the definition, or that is how Robert Boyle defined, Boyle's law. So today, next, we are going to look at the mathematical expression of Boyle's law. Of course, we express Boyle's law mathematically. In the first line, we have V is inversely proportional to P. We have inversely proportional and we have direct proportional. Inversely proportional is when you see 1 over P. Whenever you see 1 over P, it describes inverse proportion. But in direct proportion, of course, we will say V directly proportional to P. So this here we are talking of the inverse proportion. And when we say inversely proportional, of course, we are talking of Boyle's law. Here, V, it means signifies volume. And this is the sign of proportionality. And 1 over P, indicates, the inverse proportion. And P is the pressure. Of course, we are doing all this at what? At constant temperature. That is when temperature is constant. In this case, we have to eliminate this sign of proportionality, and in doing so, we give it a constant, which of course, the formula will turn to V is equals to K over P. This K is the constant of proportionality. That is, when we change this sign of proportionality, we make it to be K. Secondly, this formula will now be PV is equals to a constant K. PV is equals to what? A constant K. How do we make it PV is equals to a constant K? Is when you cross multiply. That is, if you have P is equals to K over P, when you make V over 1, then you now cross multiply. When you cross multiply, you have PV is equals to a constant K. That is how we arrived here. So here, this constant K, the formula will now be PV is equals to a constant K. That is equation 2, where K is equals to constant of proportionality. So therefore, your formula will be PV is equals to K, which is equation 3. So now, here you can see in the equation 4, we have P1 V1 is equals to P2 V2. We said at constant temperature. How do we arrive at P1 V1 and P2 V2? Of course, we have what we call initial pressure and initial volume, and we have what we call final pressure and final volume. This initial pressure is double this final pressure is double the initial pressure, while this final volume is double the initial volume. All this at constant temperature. So I hope you can now drive the mathematical expression of voice law, and of course let me believe that you can define what voice law is. And these variables you have seen, I told you the P and V, they are what? They are volume and pressure. And of course the T you see there is the temperature, but here in this case the temperature is constant. So from here we have V is inversely proportional to P. You change the sign of proportionality, you give it a constant K, and this will now be V is equals to K over P. So when you make the volume over 1, you cross multiply, you have PV is equals to a constant K, where K is a constant of proportionality. So therefore the formula will turn to PV is equals to K, which is equation 3. Now the formula finally looking at the initial pressure and the initial volume, and the final pressure and the final volume. So here the final formula will turn to P1 V1 is equals to P2 V2 at constant temperature. So whenever you want to calculate a problem in voice law, of course we use this formula. We use P1 V1 is equals to P2 V2. So finally, there's an assignment there. The assignment says that draw a sketch to illustrate the voice law. Draw a sketch to illustrate the voice law. Please try to consult your textbooks and do the assignments. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.